Now to YouTube. Streaming to YouTube. I'm going to set Craig up here in a second.
All right, we're streaming on Twitch.
Paget still has to put my video we did together on YouTube. She only has it on Twitch.
Does Paget have staff yet? She needs
Uh,
more help, I think.
Now recording.
Welcome to the Yanggang Roundtable. It is 6:10 p.m. Saturday, October 10th, 2020. We are here at a special late time because we have Jon Munitz from Hill of Roses as our guest. Thank you for coming on the show, Jon. Welcome.
You're muted.
We cannot hear you. Yeah, it's better.
Great way to start off. Thank you all for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be here on the Yanggang Roundtable.
It's traditional
Thanks
we
for
start
being
off with
here.
some kind of an error, so this is all par for the course. It's good to get it out of the system early. Anyway, we're a basic income advocacy podcast, if you don't know. And thanks everyone for having your cameras on. I got a great crew here. We got Ariel, Disdonn, Faye and Faye Ku together at last, and on one camera. Izzy B, Jon Munitz, of course, Mia, and myself, Shale, who has external monitors on, because I'm hearing myself. Oh, thank you. All right, whoever you are, you've corrected the problem. Anyway, what's on everyone's mind? This is always a crazy news cycle every week. Every time we meet, there's more to talk about. So who would like to begin the conversation?
Well, let's have Jon introduce your projects and stuff.
Sure, I don't mind doing that. So I run the Hill of Roses. We're a collective of around 20 plus individuals. We're trying to build up a media and organizing network to try and advance some causes of basic empowerment for people. We advocate for universal basic income, democracy reform, universal basic services, and our core values of freedom, justice, and security. Right now, we're just a media platform building out more content, whether that be articles or episodes Thursday through Saturday. We're building out a comic series, and we got a lot more that's in the works. But also, come 2021, we're going to be turning into an organizing venture, trying to be, kind of like a lobbyist for the people group and trying to get these ideas across the table, whether that be supporting candidates, building infrastructure for supporting down ballot polling, a lot of different ventures to try and support getting our agenda across the finish line. So we've been running as a network now since April. It originally started as my channel all the way back in 2019 of February. So it's great to see it evolve into something a little bit larger over time.
That's awesome. Thank you.
yeah, excellent. How did you get started on it?
So I originally wanted to just make a channel because I thought that in like the independent media space, there was a lot of, I would say, polarization and hostility where a lot of my peers who were apolitical would always tell me the reasons they didn't get involved in politics is they thought nothing got done. It's too negative. It's just going to constantly make me feel depressed. And I don't even know where to start. And so I wanted to create a constructive environment that was more positive and focused on hearing a lot of different perspectives and trading ideas and trying to advance a policy movement so that people could see that something could get done and that we weren't just taking cheap shots at people of other ideologies or just constantly standing our own, ideology itself. We wanted to be fair and critical to even those that we do think are worthy of advocacy. So that's really where we wanted to start in is let's have a productive conversation. Let's have a positive conversation. And we didn't feel like that was happening out there. So I started in February 2019. A variety of reasons why I came up with the Hill of Roses as a name. Shout outs to my hometown where I live at Rose Hill Road. Also, just, I used to be a democratic socialist. Now I'm a social democrat. So that has some of that rose symbology. The hill is an idea of representing Washington, D.C. and Capitol Hill. And finally, who doesn't love a good acronym of Thor for the Hill of Roses? So that's how we kind of got started. And then, due to coronavirus, I had some extra time. And so I wanted to expand it into a network.
That's excellent, Jon. I wanted to ask you, are you looking for people to join your group?
Yeah, we are. We're currently looking for more people. Yeah, so the way we have people join is we don't want to just have guest writers. We want people to fully join the organization to help us grow the movement. And so we're looking for more people to come into, either a show writing role or a graphic design and video editing role. We're also looking for people who want to head up the actual organizing part as we get prepared for 2021. So there's a lot of different angles that someone can come in and help the organization. And so we hope people will come to thehillofroses.com and sign up to try and join us. I have interviews with 2 people tomorrow, so we're constantly looking for new people to join us.
Cool.
I was a guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
Literally, when we first started this podcast, I was simultaneously doing our first couple episodes on the Roundtable here and going on yours. You were my first interview ever. So I thank you very much for that. It was really flattering and a lot of fun. We had a great conversation then. And
yeah. At the time, we were doing our top 3 priorities. I remember that. We were getting to just talk to the community and hear out what their top priorities were so that, it wasn't just me dictating to people. I wanted to hear from people in the movement. And I was happy to give someone like yourself, Maya, a chance to come on and talk about what the ideas most popular for yourself and most important for yourself were.
Yeah, that's great. And then do you also invite some conservative minded people too? Because I think it's great if you get some people who were kind of for Trump in 2016 but have shifted over to Yang to show that this isn't an ideological purity test. We want to get things done.
So I've had some struggles being able to get conservatives to come on. I've given them the invitations, but I have not had many willing takers. But I have had on plenty of actual libertarians on the program, transhumanists. I've had on Zoltan Istvan. I had on Vermin Supreme. I had on Michael Madrid, who's running in New York's 10th district as a libertarian. So yeah, I definitely strive for inviting ideological diversity, but haven't had a lot of conservative takers, so I think they're a little cowardly. They don't want to come on. I've made the invitation on plenty of occasions to conservatives to come on and let's have a common understanding, but no one's taken up the invitation yet.
I mean, it's funny when I started believing in the Yang movement, conservatives were labeling me, and then I'm like, no, I still believe in conservative things, but this UBI, I can see it as conservative because it cuts out all the bureaucracy, so it can help both sides of the spectrum. Yeah.
No, I wholeheartedly understand that. Yeah, I mean, that's why one of the things that we certainly preach is universal programs over means-tested ones. As I said beforehand, our top 2, economic solutions that we want to bring forward is universal basic income and universal basic services. And we think those can be better solutions than the existing means-tested welfare system that's out there.
UBI is the top imperative for me, and we're a UBI podcast, so I assume that's pretty much the case for everybody else here. It's so important to changing the structure of society and moving us from scarcity mindset to something better. I kind of broke my train of thought when I realized.
Yeah, there's an audible echo. I think it's coming from you, John. I'm sorry. Is there any way you could put in headphones?
Or mute when you're not speaking. That's good. That works also.
Or use software noise suppression is another possibility. But yeah, anyway. Okay. Please, Mia, you want to try again?
Mia, before you get started, I just wanted to say that your dog looks like a familiar, like in the Pirates.
She's absolutely adorable. She decided to hang out with me today, so I'm feeding her pieces of bread over my shoulder. But it's gone now, so that's not going to happen anymore. But I was saying, UBI is just the most important imperative to all of us here. We're a UBI podcast, obviously, but it's going to change so much, and it's going to end so much suffering. And I think that I'm very happy that you guys are also picking up the torch, that everybody is working to try and get these issues so much attention that they have deserved for a long time. And I kind of lost my train of thought again.
And also John, I saw that you had one humanity first endorsed candidate after another on your show running for Congress, and that was a pretty awesome feat that you could have them back to back.
Yeah, right now we've had roughly 50 plus candidates come onto the program. It's been more than any other media networks had out there in terms of 2020 congressional candidates. So we thought it was really important to highlight what's happening down ballot because you know what? The race in Florida still impacts the person in New York because all these people are federal representatives. And so I think it's important that we see that there's more than just a presidential race that people should care about. and that they need to get involved in these down ballot races, because at the end of the day, they're the people who do the legislation. You know, the president's only the one who's at the end of the day going to likely sign what gets through Congress. So we got to take control of Congress to say what's going to his desk.
Yeah, it's so important right now to have the difference between political hobbyism and actually making a difference. And so much that we have right now is just hobbyism. It's just like my team is the best, your team sucks, and then nothing gets done.
Yeah, no, I think that's why it's important to build up a movement that's policy focused. We have welcomed in conservatives in the past into our organization, and we strive to be multipartisan. Anyone who wants to come to our policy agenda, we don't care what labels you prescribe to yourself. We want to work towards the common solutions we agree to.
Let me jump in real quick. I'll just cut to the chase. So John, I'm sure you're up to date with this, but yeah, there's the so-called, the sit down or whatever with the lawmakers, Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin, Donald Trump, and all, over the stimulus check. But it looks like,
Can you
once
mute your
again,
mic on? Sorry.
I don't think that's me, because I'm
It
not
was
getting.
John's mic. Go ahead
We
and
can hear
continue.
you better now, Izzy.
Okay, so what I was saying is yeah, it looks like first they're saying that it looks like there's progress being made, and then then you have Nancy saying I don't want to make any sort of compromise or whatever. I want my 2.2 trillion, even though there was the proposal of like 1.8 trillion by Republicans, Donald Trump and stuff, and then Mitch is doing all that and stuff. But in short, I just want to ask, like, when do you think we'll ever get this second stimulus check, and why are they playing this political game at the expense of our struggle? And it's like, what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, so my thoughts on all that is that we've had a stimulus bill out there that's passed the House since May. We have the HEROES Act that's still out there and never got voted through on the Senate. And so I think the first and foremost thing is there's something they can pass right away with the Republican-controlled Senate if they wanted to. In terms of the proposal now, I, of course, think there are some good things in it. I like the cash relief to people, especially the extra bonuses that they gave to dependencies. There were some extensions of the unemployment, even if it wasn't as much as the $600 a week. It's $400 now, so that's still good. It's good to have a bonus amount of money. And there is some support for the states. So there are some good things in there, but I think Nancy has a valid complaint in that there's nothing being done to actually address the health crisis too. And so just constantly throwing money at a problem that you're not trying to fix the underlying disease can be potentially wasteful. And I think with such a close window to the election, I think they're playing a little hardball now. To answer your question of when do we get it, I frankly think it's going to be something, unfortunately, that'll come in 2021. I do think there's going to be a lot of political calculus, and I do think that's a shame. People need help right now. But I think the Republican offer wasn't sufficient. I think they need to go further, and I hope that they will come to the bill that's already passed. They have something that's already out there. Come and sign it. If you want to have a win for Donald Trump and for the American people, sign the legislation that's already passed the House. Just pass it through the Senate now.
I have contacted my representatives and my senators, and one of my senators is Steve Daines, a Republican, and he has yet to say anything about any of that. And it's kind of bullshit, in my opinion, when the HEROES Act has a thing that not only helps us now, but helps us going forward, because it has what? It has recurring payments. Not only does it have recurring payments, but because of how long that they have waited to pass it, it also has back pay included from April when they first started writing the bill. which means that we'd have April, May, June, July, August, September, and now October, 7 months of back pay on top of monthly payments up to a year after the epidemic ends. And it's just ridiculous that they look at that and then they nitpick because there's money for states and then there's a little bit of money for green energy. Oh my fucking God. That is so horrible that you are denying people help they need right fucking now for 7 goddamn months. I've been calling my senator, both of them, almost weekly since fucking May, and not a damn thing's been done.
But you live in a Republican, Republican area, right? So the incumbents are Republicans, correct?
One is Republican, one is Democrat.
Oh, okay.
And I've talked with my neighbors. I've talked with people at the school. They need this money. We have a thing in this area of Montana where there's families that have had their homesteads and farms of hundreds, if not thousands of acres of land for over 100 years. Sure, we stole it from the Native Americans, but this is land that their family has been on for 100, 120 years, raising cattle. And we're looking at families that have had this land and they cannot pay the property taxes on this land because of the oil that's under their land now that is being added to their land's value, and they don't have anywhere to sell the meat because of the economic downturn. And so they need the money to keep their family farms, or else they go bankrupt. They have to sell their land, they have to sell their cattle, and they leave. This is families. This is generational families, grandfathers, sons, grandchildren, all working together and ranching and making a business. And they're going to lose their home. They're going to lose their business because someone who supposedly represents them, Donald Trump and Steve Daines and Mitch McConnell, do not give a fuck.
I would like.
I know I swear a lot, but damn it, I'm too pissed off not to.
And I do want to follow up by what Disdonn was saying. Mentioning that his representatives are Republican. Here's the thing: like I'm in the Chicago area, and my senator is Dick Durbin. And two reps are Tammy Ducksworth and Robin Kelly, and they're all Democrats. And I myself have sent a letter to the reps, and they haven't responded to me until weeks or months after, and it's usually this automated message saying, hey, hey, so and so, we got your message and we understand your concern, or whatever, some bullshit like that saying. And then they start bringing up like, oh, families and children, and we support this bill, and we think that's more important than giving people money or something like that. But if you have other questions, call us at this number and stuff. And it's the same old. I'm like, it's like,
it's ridiculous.
I'd like to see any of them write an honest letter back to us saying, this is what we're holding out for. These are the special interests that we're waiting for the money. These are the corporations that we want to give the money to. And if we don't get that, we're not going to everybody else their cash. I'm 100% on board with the, split it out. The only piece we care about is the piece where you give money to the American people directly into our hands. And the rest of that, you guys want to argue about it until, Donald Trump leaves. That's fine.
It just amazes me how non-representing our so-called representatives are, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever label they want to put on themselves. I don't give a shit, to quite frankly. I don't care. They can call themselves a duck or a tree or a house or Democrat, Republican. I don't care. Are they responding? Are they actually like looking at what's happening and coming up with an idea or like a plan to implement? That's all that matters. I don't care. It's like going to the store. I don't look at the label on what I'm buying. Sometimes it depends, but what I care more about the label than the product is like, is the product gonna do its job? Not what label does this product have. So that's what's important. And I find it funny because before I came here, I did a mock debate between O'Mara, who's running in the 42nd District of California, and Ken Calvert. Ken refuses to debate Liam O'Mara. So how can we know? It's like John, if you invited actual incumbents onto your show with the people running against them to have a discussion or a debate, if those incumbents just ignore the people who are running against them, how the hell are they getting voted in again and again and again? It makes no sense.
Remember, Nancy Pelosi, her seat is up, and her opponent is also a Democrat. I cannot remember that person's name right now, but they're a Humanity First candidate.
Oh, Sharif
Yeah.
Buttar. Yeah, I heard, or something like that. I mean, it's.
I didn't want to butcher their name.
Look, like at this point,
I'm on the fence with. I'm on the fence with that guy because it's like, because I don't know. It's like he seemed pretty like self-centered and full of himself, thinking like, oh, we owe him like the recognition. I'm all about, again, like, I'm all about action. If he really is for the people, well then just show it in your actions and stuff, and stop like, saying like, oh, hey, I support UBI.
At this point though, you guys, if like a do nothing incumbent was running against a Rock, I'd probably vote for the Rock.
I would probably vote for the Rock as well. Especially if it was Dwayne the Rock Johnson, but any Rock will do.
Right.
John.
Oh, Dwayne Johnson's terrible. No.
I wanted to say real quick. Can you it looked like you wanted to chime in, and there was a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly a lot going on. I will say I've had some successes with my own representatives, so I don't want to make everyone feel like this effort of trying to contact your representatives makes no difference. I used to be in New Jersey's 8th District. I reached out to Albio Sires, who was the House of Representatives member. I actually briefly ran against him in 2019 before endorsing Hector Osagura in that race. And we were able to get him to come on board to the emergency UBI bill from reach out to his actual constituency offices. So I don't want people to feel super depressed about that. And I also want to just make it like clear. This is like, I get that we want more Democrats in support of it. I 100% agree. But they're the only ones coming forward with these bills for cash relief. They're the only ones we've gotten co-sponsors from. They're the only ones who are supporting it when they're running for office right now for the most part. So I think we can't just call them equal here. There's certainly more effort from Republicans to stop cash relief efforts. As we said beforehand with the HEROES Act, we've passed cash relief efforts and we have a bill already passed through the House. It's time for the Senate to act and for Republicans to act to start helping people. So I don't want this like false equivalency. I do think the Democrats aren't doing enough, but I do think they're, heading in the right direction.
The problem with the way that you worded that is saying Republicans. There's one person that needs to do their fucking job. The one person who hasn't actually brought a bill before the Senate hardly at all in the last 8 years that he's been the majority leader, and that is Mitch McConnell. He ran for re-election when Obama was president on the policy of, I'm not going to do anything to help anyone but myself and the Republicans. I will not bring any Democrat-sponsored bill before the Senate. And he's been doing that. He's got, what's the last tally? 600, 700 bills that have not been brought before the Senate that have passed the House just because Mitch McConnell is a giant turd of a man. Like, that is unfair that I call my representatives and they say, oh, I can't do anything. It's all up to Mitch McConnell. It's like, really? You can't bully that man? You cannot bully that old man into doing his job?
No, that's them trying to push the blame around. The power that Mitch McConnell has comes from the Republican Party owning the Senate and the Republican Party making him the majority leader. These are just straight facts. You can't just say it's one man doing all this evil. His power comes from his party.
Oh, I know that. It's just they need to fucking do their jobs.
Oh,
Well, here's
100%.
the other
And I
thing.
mean, to your point about representative nature, right now, when 91% of raises are determined straight by money, when you need an average of 1.6 million to run for a raise, when you have 17% of people even approving the job you're doing, but you win 91% of the time, the system isn't working in that regard. And that's why democracy reform is one of our top priorities.
Yeah, because there's some very deep corruption in our systems, in our society, because to like I do want to mention, to Disdonn's point, when it comes to Mitch McConnell, he's not a fan in his own state that he represents, like most, like, and I believe on the recent Yang Speaks episode with was that one guy Mike Peters or something, he was like a
Matt Jones.
Yeah, Matt Jones or something like that, and he was telling Andrew Yang that Mitch McConnell, like, everybody essentially hates him over in Kentucky, like not just the black community or whatever, like everybody, and which only means, like, even though it's somewhat baffling, it only shows that that it wasn't the people who put him in there, it was more or less, the ones at the top, or the ones, giving people like him the paycheck, like Mitch, like him, like Nancy, and various others who are the ones, making the bills and laws and stuff. And I feel like this is quite, even though it's serious, like is quite the battle, because even though we yell at the rooftop saying, like, okay, we need to bring change, and like people are suffering, people are dying, they're just going to laugh at us unless there's someone above them who says, hey, if you don't do this for the people, then we're going to do this and that, and or we're going to cut your checks, or something like that, but otherwise, it's like they essentially don't.
Thing. When Trump made that one tweet, he's kind of over everybody, right? He's the president, so he's over everyone. And he made that tweet saying, "Nancy, give us this thing to vote on, just this piece," right? I can completely agree, 100% agree with him, because he has identified that people want this. We're over 50% on this now. We're heading up to 70%, I think. Public opinion is up and up on getting the cash for the people. And so if all of these, Mitch McConnell and all these other politicians are not paying attention, the times are changing, right? They need to pay attention to this change in the wind.
It's time to walk them off the plank, throw them in the dumpster.
And if they don't,
I am personally part of the Pitchfork and Torch Party.
Yeah.
I will substitute the pitchforks and torches for a guillotine if allowed.
Is that an actual party? I just want to.
No, I wish.
That would be a very interesting thing to try and brand.
But it's gotten that bad with them
yeah,
being so removed from their constituents.
I think
anymore.
that's it. I think, like, when Andrew said that the machine is broken, basically if you see like gears and there's like one gear that's missing, so just by that one gear being missing, it doesn't rotate all the other gears. So there's like a gear there that's not there, and all the gears before it are rotating, and all the gears after that one that's missing is like not making all the other ones rotate.
Yeah,
What?
I understand what you mean. It's causing compounding damage. When you take out one functional piece of the system, it's going to cause stream effects from what missing that piece is going to do. And I think you're right. This is happening throughout our democracy. So it's not just like, oh, we fixed campaign finance, everything's solved. There's so many different pieces of the puzzle that you have to fix the overall system.
Well, I
It's
think
also-
the important
It's
thing,
also
though,
happening
is
to our society.
I think we need
Hey,
to make
can you
sure
speak up
that
just a little bit?
Say that again?
Can you speak up just a little bit? You're a bit quiet to me.
Okay. So I think what's important, though, is that all these different moving parts that we have to get them to talk to each other. That's the thing. Like, there's so many moving parts that if we don't get these groups to talk to each other, we're not going to make change. Not like we're supposed to, or how we need to, I should say.
Yeah,
Because
echo chambers.
it'll fall apart if we don't. And what's happened though is with so many people who've been activated to make change because like they're watching their whole country right now. People are doing the jobs we need, but if like we're growing together and merging different movements already right now. But we have to figure out all the different tiers that need to be built,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that we have solid
I agree
foundation.
100%, Faye. And if they refuse to talk to each other, adios, bye bye. We don't want you anymore. Just imagine if someone had a war between their customer service team and their logistics team every day, and they like one customer service person would say that that person in the logistics team is like stupid, and then that logistics team member, and they wouldn't cooperate, and they would just complain about each other all day. You know what that employer would do? That employer would say, get out, you're all fired, that's it, I'm sick of this. We have the same thing
I
going
have
on right
worked in factories that operated like that, and you say that the owner would fire them, but instead our owner just let things get to the point where we just had a mass walk off and they just hired new people. He didn't fire anybody, he just saw who was going to leave first and
Wow.
replace the ones that left.
Let's say like
the most interesting thing that's happening right now is that the one piece that would pass is the cash for the people, and everybody knows it. And the only reason for Nancy not to pull it out and just is because
they just want to score brownie points.
They
That's
want
it.
to get the pork. They want to pile the pork on, right? I mean, if the pork is the stuff that they're going to argue about, which is really interesting. I think we need to really start to think of ourselves as the majority now, right? We've moved into a situation where we are the majority. We've been the minority before as Yang, but we've actually moved that needle now to where public opinion is on our side.
So we've gone from early adopters to more mainstream at this point, like we are the ones that started that foundation, and because we knew what needed to be done, now other people can step into the framework that we've created, and it'll cascade from there, especially if we keep merging and inspiring and getting outside of our own echo chambers. I mean, I think it's possible. I think it's just a lot of work, and more than one person is in charge of it.
And I think this is the
Echo
moment
chambers
to
are
go full
toxic.
Karen on everyone. All right?
What do you mean by that? But what do you mean by that? Okay.
As Asian Karen, okay. It's like time to really, start acting like the majority, right? We are now the majority. We need to like demand.
It's time to get out a paddle. It's time to like be a tiger mom to all these like politicians that we have and stuff like that,
Yeah, well, at the beginning, right? At the beginning, it was just about, have you heard of this? Have you even heard of this idea? Have you heard of this idea? And now everybody's heard of the idea because everybody's got, well, not everybody, unfortunately, but many, many people have gotten their stimulus checks and they're like, oh, yeah, that was good, right? There are some people who are actually
but that was good.
feel guilty for getting an extra check.
Or just even the unemployment that people got. That was the first time they actually had money. Like people are like,
yeah,
I
that was
can save
great,
this money and I can use it for when things go to crap again. Like they were able.
Speaking as one of those people, eventually it got to a point where I didn't want to splurge anymore, and I just said, you know what, like I want to self-actualize. I want to like do something good with this money. Like I want to build a business. I want to be like more active. I wanted to like leave, like the money was making me feel so happy that I'm like, what can I do to like leave a legacy or like leave something behind other than just splurge and go shopping and just buy a whole bunch of like stuff for myself. It just got to that point, and it's like, let people get there. Let people get there,
But see, you invested in yourself when you bought that drone, because that is something you can use to make money later, right? You were like investing the money you got from the government and into a passion that you have that can also turn around money and help other people even. You brought the camera to the UBI parade, went to in LA. And people wanted that footage you had, right? So you can actually help empower other people's projects
100%.
by investing in yourself. And then, it's a cascading effect as well that way.
There's some
socialism.
100%. Right.
I do
although we already have socialism for the rich, mind you, but that's fine. But I guess for us, it's like, but it's not even socialism. It's just capitalism that doesn't start at zero. It's these rhetorical tools that are being presented to us that brainwash people. If we can win the rhetorical game, we win the game. It's just about like branding and stuff like that. It's funny. I had a conversation with a scam buster. His name is Coffeezilla. And I said that, you know what, if people had this financial floor, they'd be less susceptible to some scammer coming in and talking about like, hey, give me a ton of money so later you're gonna make some money, because that's how scams work. And then you know what he responded to me? He said, oh, but I have a friend who just like would get the money, and he's a welder and he always complains about his job. If he got the money, he'd just like sit home and like smoke weed all day and do this and that. I have the video for you guys. I'm premiering it at 6 o'clock of my conversation with that guy. You can just take a look at it, because a lot of people are like brainwashed by the paradigm of capitalism and communism. When I said we need a whole new paradigm, this paradigm in and of itself is toxic. It has nothing to do with these things.
We can do things that are both fun and productive. And that's what UBI gives us the opportunity to do. It's to take the things that are our passions and fun for us and turn them into something that generates value for others as well, not just for ourselves. Like everybody's personal project can be turned into something that enriches the world around them.
Right. And this is what we loved to do when we were, kids, when we were like maybe 7, 8 years old, like create a little like project and invite all the kids and like make teams and like this is this and this is that. Now let's play some video games. Now let's like play some ball. Let's like create our own rules. Let's do our own things and like let's have some fun with it. What's wrong with that when you get older?
I watched a couple people start some projects, right? Like there's this person who is part of the Yang Gang. Her name is Nina. She's part of a fridge project where essentially, take what you need, leave what you can, and it's to get away from food scarcity, right? Because we don't need to be starving like we are. We could spread the love of food. But another person had a second home and, started making community center out of it.
Farmers are throwing away their excess food. Wouldn't they feel happier if they could just sell it? Do you know how happy like my managers got when I worked at the electronics store when people were buying things? They don't care if those people were working or not working, or like if they did it through the sweat of their brow. They just saw people come into the store, and when I sold them something, whether that person got the money from inheritance or from working, my managers were all like ecstatic and thing. And when I wasn't selling anything, which I don't have control over how much money the customers have and how many times they come in the store, when I wasn't selling, first of all, the managers really got pissed off. And second of all, the customers got uncomfortable with me trying to shove the sale down their throat.
And the other problem,
he's been trying to talk, so let's give him some time to talk.
Okay. So, I mean, one thing I wanted to just kind of get out there is that, we do need to do more than just a branding exercise. I do think that's very important, and we certainly get to talk about that a ton on the Hill of Roses. But it's really just, we got to get out there, got to get involved in the actual community. Like, there is an establishment in place. And so, who are the most likely people to be involved in the political process and be likely to politically volunteer? The people who are already doing this stuff and already leading our communities. And so you kind of have to also just say, show up to these community centers, whether that be sometimes it's actually, I don't do this myself, I'm not a religious person, but going to church builds community. It builds trust in you, and they're more willing to listen to your ideas. Likewise, go to local town meetings and be able to get involved there. I think we just have to get more involved.
Yeah.
We just went to a thing earlier today, and we came back early from this event with the local Democrats. There was a bunch of different people who were running for office, and it's this, small, tiny little event. But we had Kathy Chang, who is running for justice of the Supreme Court out here.
Yeah.
And,
I think that's good.
So, but when we go there, we get to meet a lot of people who are essentially the movers and shakers, who've been doing it their whole lifetimes, most of them. But
And we can learn from them too. Maybe their technique.
You have to show up to learn, and to
Right,
offer
right.
your services, like offer.
And I think as a Jew, like there's this whole concept of like tzedakah, and I think UBI would like represent that. Tzedakah is like giving, like charitable stuff, and I think I'll get in touch with like a couple of rabbis and like ask them like what they think of this UBI concept. I haven't done that, so it's an idea there.
You also have a lot of Jews in your neighborhood too, though. Like you could totally resonate with them with that.
I have that in common. We have the most Jews on earth other than Israel where I live.
Nice. So yeah, go out there and ask them like they probably know about tzedakah, and ask like, hey, like how would you think of this like universal tzedakah? Like universal basic tzedakah, UBT.
Is that like tithing for the Christians?
Yeah, basically. It's like it's the same thing.
It also makes a lot of sense, I think, when you've analyzed a lot of historical rises in hate crime. It's often very correlated with high economic inequalities of the area. Like if you're thinking about even like Nazi Germany, it followed the economic depression caused by World War I.
Right.
And if we're facing that now, you're going to obviously also see a rise in hate crime.
100%. Because if people can't work on like a passion project or like something that gives them meaning and purpose and value, they're going to find it in some very, very dark ways. And that's sad, but that's what happens.
Not only that, but poverty makes us dumb. Just putting that out there. It's not like someone in poverty's fault that they sometimes act irrationally. It's like you're not going to keep good mental health or general health if you don't have the means to provide for that such service. So yeah, I think 100% it's going to help decrease violence in society if we give everyone money.
I know there's this whole reducing your number of IQ points or whatever. But there's also this sort of feeling of helplessness that you get when you're impoverished. You spend a lot of time trying to reduce what you have to, what you do, like all of your activities, to reduce them so that you cut out all of the things that you don't want to spend money on. And so you drive less, you go to less things, you participate less, and then pretty soon you've limited yourself so much that you no longer think of yourself as being important. You don't have to go to those things. You don't have to participate. You don't have to have your voice there. And
right. It's a slippery slope to despair. Like we always talk about the slippery slope concept, like, but if you do this, then this is going to happen. And then if that's going to happen, then this is going to happen. It's a slippery slope. Well, poverty is a slippery slope. And once you start slipping, you can like fall off. And I was just talking to someone who's like was a whistleblower on this like called out a corporation for the things that they did, and they can blackball you out of the job market, out of your profession. If you can get blackballed out of your profession, that is tyranny, because they're not like killing you directly, but they are limiting how you get your oxygen, how you get your nourishment by blackballing you, and that's not freedom. If you don't have like a line of income separate from your profession that you can get blackballed from.
I think it's worth adding that, just to clarify, we're by no means experts pontificating on despair and poverty and the slide thereinto. We are all people who've experienced it personally, which is probably what has ultimately brought us together here today. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, please.
Well, I mean, I have not. But the thing is that...
All right, well, that's fair. It's very big of you to kind of admit it that way. Thank you, Ariel. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking of you. But you have experienced a sort of, bait and switch your whole life, disappointment, and a lack of opportunity. Certainly, you deserve to be here as much as anyone,
The bait and switch is infuriating to me, and I can only imagine how much worse it is for people who come from, like, no means. I come from relatively, like, affluent means. But when I see that, like, I go into some kind of like job training program, or I go into something, and I'm given promises that you're going to come out of this path with a job, with something that you can make money with, and those promises are broken and I have no recourse, that pisses me off. And it's a good thing that I have a natural safety net with my family. But if I didn't, I would be in like the same dire straits, and that is not that is just not right. That is just not fair. That is just not okay. Just in and of itself. No matter if
Because
you come from means or you don't.
we don't live in alignment with reality. That's the thing. Like, we aren't like focusing on finding the truths and working with truths to find solutions. We imagine that we know what it looks like. It's like trying to draw a person's face without looking at their face. You're going to have a little distortion to it, right? But you can have maybe close, especially if you know techniques to recreate faces. But if you're just a beginner and you're trying to draw a face, it's not going to look exactly like that person, right? It's not going to look realistic. And that's kind of what we're doing with reality. We're pretending like we know what we're doing, but we've never taken the time to look at it, to study
We're
it.
actually running away from reality.
Like
okay,
people.
that's
I mean,
like
that's
go ahead.
Like when people with generational wealth what is it, make assumptions about people who are struggling, that's just not fair in and of itself. But yeah, go ahead, Izzy. Yeah,
like when like what you were saying, yeah, people are just running away from reality in a form of like while also aware of reality, the truth. But they're this thing about like fake positivity and like always trying to like be positive and be nice in these times, and shaming those who are like pessimistic or negative, or just see like hey, things are not going to get better. It's just like, oh, you're ruining my vibe, get away from me, and stuff like that. So it's a lot of like meanwhile they try to like mask it with alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, all these things. These same people who they're who are like that dog sitting in a house on fire saying this is fine. They're acting just like that, and in the process they're actually adapting the same sort of negligence and toxicity that you see with these lawmakers currently, and even before. Just they're actually like becoming like a habit and spreading throughout our own society. So it's going from lawmakers to the freaking support groups that are against these sorts of toxic
right.
people, along with organizations
and
who
Izzy,
rely on family members,
I wanted
friends,
to
etc.
add and this whole culture of hustle porn, it's just gotten ridiculous. Everything is like if you go on Instagram, there's like all these hustle channels about like I wake up at 5 a.m. and like eat like a bowl full of kale, and then I exercise, and then I just go out and I hustle all the time until I die, and then I do the same thing. It's like hustle.
And if I can do it, you can too. Yeah.
Right. The
It's
personal
not healthy.
responsibility.
Yeah.
It's your fault if you're not perfectly fit and you're not wealthy and you don't have X number of kids and a wife and everything's perfect in your life. So but I'm with Jon in terms of that's why I was saying when Faye was asking me how do you Karen people or whatever it is, I feel like that's where we need to be, though. We need to walk in to these political arenas and represent ourselves as the majority. Okay, if you don't care about, obviously you must care what I think, because if you don't care about me, then you don't care about your constituency. I represent the majority of the people who are in your district, and I'm going to tell you how it is. And when you tell me you can't do it, I'm going to say why can't you do it, and I'm going to tell you who I need to speak to get that done.
Yeah. It's honestly a lot easier to ignore people whining online than it is to ignore people whining right in front of you at a town hall meeting or at their offices. It's like you got to deal with them. It's like the difference between, I don't know if any of you have had phone bankers try to reach out to you, but you always you'll get spam emails asking for money, all these supportive candidates. You'll throw them away. But if someone shows up at your door knocking and says, "I'd like to talk to you about this," you're like, they went through all the effort to show up and be
They
there.
cornered
Like, I
you.
can't just be an
But-
asshole and ignore them the whole time. I have to
right.
engage. And so I think there's
but
the importance of showing up.
the pandemic kind of changed that whole calculus, because like before it happened, I was actually like planning to go on some of these things in physical space, and then they canceled the whole thing. But that was in the beginnings. What I'm just saying.
But even still, there's you're still going to have these town hall meetings. It's not like government just ended. Yeah, it's moved virtual now. You should still show up to that point, because a lot of the times they'll still have open from the public statement portions to those meetings. So it's good to show face, I think, in general. And I encourage people to do both the support online and building national infrastructures like we're trying to do at the Hill of Roses, but also where you live, get involved and go and show up to meetings. It's, usually only a couple hours per week. Try and just show up for those couple hours a week and get to know the people of your community, because that's the biggest way you're going to be able to make change, is always local.
Well, that's
Sometimes
if you have
one-
the energy, the means to do those things, because not everyone has the ability, and you can't force them, because
I know
your
it's
health is your top priority. But yeah, I think that is a good idea, but we should make it a normal thing, and make have the majority, the general public get in, because we can't do it all this on our own. And mind you, it might have been easier back in middle school, high school, where they say stand up to a bully, and we just stand up to them, they won't and they'll leave us alone or whatever, essentially. Here's the big problem, though. Those bullies are the lawmakers now. They're the ones who who are in charge of our future, our fate, or whatever. And standing up to them, it's we're just going to be wasting our breath, and they're just going to make it worse for us. So what we need is a majority of people to rally together, so we can all stand up to these bullies and send them packing. But that's if we're able to.
Here's where I disagree, though, because I think to start a rally of people, you need the first person to start a rally. So I don't want people to feel like they should be waiting around until they can build up a majority effort. Simply getting involved and going to these places, there's going to be another voice in the room to hold people accountable when you just show up and actually go talk to these people. Because right now, most of the time when you're talking about local legislature, they're owned by the developers in your area, because they're the ones who need to constantly go and get permits from these town village people. They don't hear from people because they just don't care. And as you said, you're right. We can't all, be able to do this. Some people are working class people working 2-3 jobs. And it's why we need to try and bring in more people who are of, kind of this upper middle class lifestyle. They have more time available. They have more resources. You can't just ostracize these people. The progressive movements of the early 1900s that rallied, this coalition of social programs as well as voting rights for women involved a lot of, upper middle class people. And I think we can tell them how these ideas like universal also help them. I think we can't let it be the poor is our only base, the young is our only base, because it's noble to want to help those groups, but they're disenfranchised from participating in the political process.
And to follow up on that, John, upper middle class people are not our enemies. In fact, a lot of children of upper middle class people are having just as much trouble in getting work and getting good work as their counterparts. So we can all come up with that. The robot doesn't care if you came from upper middle class or regular lower middle class. It's going to replace your job. So we can all get together and say okay, maybe this job isn't necessary. We can create a new economy. Let's have this UBI. So it's a rising floor for everyone, and it helps everybody. And we can all get together on that. And we don't have to be each other's enemies.
And the one thing I'd like to add about why I think it's very important to go local, if you think about who the people are that aren't traditionally in our voter base, let's even take the Yang campaign specifically, the number one demographic we struggled with was old people. Old people. They tend to be a little bit more conservative in nature too, but it was old people. Guess who is at these local town meetings running things? Old people. That's where they go. They go to these community functions. They're kind of ingrained into their communities already. And so how do you start changing people? Well, first talking to them and showing up where they already are. And so that's why it's so important that, a lot of this online advocacy, I think, is important. I think we need to build up support systems to get people plugged and involved. But online is young. There's a lot of young people online. So that's going to cap where you can really go. Take Twitter for an example. It's only 20% of people in total. And then on top of that, you're skewing young. And young people, we would love this to change, but they don't vote as much. They don't have as much resources to contribute to campaigns. And so you have to start going where the older people are so you can start speaking this message and start winning more support from a broader base.
It's interesting that Yang is a hard sell to older people when the elderly are one of the demographics that are traditionally, historically, much more likely to experience poverty, right? So...
And it's also incredibly important to remember that if we wait for us to actually take the majority the old-fashioned way, it's going to be another decade or two until they die off. So that's going to be a while. We have to actually make action on them to get a real majority.
Unless we cough on them with COVID.
Ooh, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah.
Who is the new person
Dark
that
humor.
has joined us? Can we say hi?
I do not know who this person is, but welcome to the show. You have found your way to the show, so welcome. How are you doing? Who are you?
I'm Steve.
Sorry, man.
Disdonn knows me. I've been around for a bit.
Well, welcome to the show.
Oh, Steve, hi.
I just gotta adjust my headphones quick.
So while we're
Partner in crime in the charity game here.
While we're
I'm
at a bit of a brief break,
I'm sorry.
I wanted to bring up something that happened in my town, apparently. It's kind of interesting. Have you guys heard of the stuff that happened with Governor Widmer and how she was...
Saw your tweet
Yeah.
about that.
Vanilla
that was-
ISIS.
One of the people who got arrested was in my town, and apparently the FBI did part of their sting in my town. I've got an article here that I'm going to link in there. It's weird. It's weird, and it's really close to home. And I've got a neighbor with a Trump flag next to me, so it makes me a little extra paranoid. I don't know. I normally am fine with that kind of stuff, but when all of a sudden the militia is trying to kidnap people in your town, you go, what? And people don't look the same to you anymore.
I mean,
Like
I live in
So we
eastern
might need more
Montana,
back-
so I know everyone's in a militia.
I don't
And
know
I know
what
they're
this
gonna
whole
try to
thing is
make it
about.
like-
Can you please update me? What is this about? What's going on?
So, I can jump in because I also heard the story. So recently there was there was like people who were part of this militia, whatever, in Michigan, who were very against Governor Widmer because of how she handled COVID, and she was like I think she was like restricting businesses or closing the state down and stuff, and they didn't like that. And then there was this recent article or story about these these couple folks a part of that group who were conspiring to kidnap her and bring her to the court for treason or something like that. Now, with this,
Execute her at the end if they took, they were going to try her for treason, and then they were going to try and incite civil war. That was the idea.
that's just like, listen, like no one should do that. Like, if any of us did that, we would go straight to jail. So it's like, so of course they're good. So it's no surprise that the FBI would get involved because you literally made a threat to an official, threatening to kidnap them, whatever. That's a crime. And it's like, and I'm sure they're gonna try to make this political, saying, oh, they're arresting us because we're patriots, because we love the First and Second Amendment and shit. And I'm like, come on.
Kidnapping is not protected by the First Amendment. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think we also have to talk about that Trump has some culpability here. I think when you
He
all
actually
tweet
was saying a lot
Twitter,
negative.
liberate Michigan, I think you're going to get some extreme reactions.
Yeah, he said a lot of things on Twitter, and he said some things in some speeches directed at the governor of Michigan for denying his reopen policy
I mean,
immediately.
I think we forget that like states like Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania have a lot in common with states like Kentucky.
I want to add. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But sorry, before we get too off track, I do want to add that I was watching Rising this morning. They had a whole piece on how the kidnappers were actually anti-Trump. So it's that they were not Trump supporters.
Okay.
Interesting.
I want to just bring up one thing. It is incredible that our president doesn't understand the language he uses and the power it has, right? He's got so much power that he seems to be oblivious to or is like capitalizing on, right? But it's like he's got all this with great power comes great responsibility, but I don't think he understands that people translate his message.
The thing is like if a used car salesman was like your crazy uncle on Thanksgiving, like no one would really, okay, he's just some random guy in the town. But Trump just gets this used car salesman nonchalantness and applies it to his job.
I think also it's important to point out that they may not have been Trump supporters, but they are following a lot of his messaging. A lot of the points they were making were verbatim Trump points. Things like the math.
They got it from him or got it from Alex Jones.
So I know that most of Trump's supporters do not. Every time Trump gets blamed for something, they like to reply back, "How is he responsible for that?" Like they don't. It's the whole group. It's not just Trump himself. They all disavow Trump's any sort of responsibility for anything he does, which is just completely ridiculous.
But then they'll say Antifa is Joe Biden's fault. Like that makes sense,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, I can see
target on anybody's back, and then step back and watch the violence happen and go, "Hey, I had nothing to do with it." That makes no sense at all. Sorry, go ahead.
Trump is very like a slippery, like he's like the Teflon man. Like nothing ever like sticks to him. But I mean, there was an allure to him when he was a candidate. It's like, yeah, he'll go in there, he'll like destroy the establishment, but now that's all gone. I don't know.
I thought he was a shock jock to an extent. Like I thought like he was going to be like Howard Stern type. He was registered as a Democrat, saying whatever it took to become popular, and it didn't matter who was listening. That was who he was going to appeal to if they were listening, and I was very wrong.
I think a lot of people just wanted an alternative to what they had experienced over and over and over again. They were just tired of, moderate republicanism and neoliberalism, which are almost in practice the same thing, just decade after decade. And if Trump was a protest vote, they were going, "Oh, this guy can't be worse." And I think a lot of people who voted for him go, "Oh, he actually is worse. Wow, this is a terrible situation we're in."
This is a new development.
But it doesn't mean that they're happily voting for Biden either. That's obviously not happening. Biden created the private prison system. I mean, you could certainly argue he's the greater evil. I don't know. It's just a terrible time we live in. What are you going to do?
Which is a greater evil, succumbing to a dictator or finding a way that might be able to slowly, even if it takes years, get us out of this bullshit?
Well,
that's a real question we have to ask ourselves this election season, right?
There's the coronavirus is still not over yet either. We are going to be dealing with this probably for years. So who do you want in charge of that as well? And Trump has shown what he's going to do during that, and it's
he's just not going to care.
People, it's tearing people in pieces, not just.
Oh, he's terrible.
Oh, and John
terrible.
Was
but I mean, we should not have to say, well, this guy did create the private prison system, one of the worst injustices in human history, but let's vote for him because he's going to do a better job handling the plague. That's a bad position, and we should not allow ourselves to be in this position year after year,
Bad position, in my opinion, either. I don't think that it's fair to say, people are actively dying right now because of decisions Trump made. There are people actively suffering right now because of decisions Trump made.
Yeah, that's true.
We can fix that system, but right now we need emergency responses, and Trump is not responding in an emergency way. And we need that response.
I'd also like to jump in a little bit on the topic of actually Joe Biden and the 1994 crime bill. I think we have to also realize that we were actually in a pretty different time at that point. We were at a increasingly high crime scenario in the 1990s, and we've seen significant drop off since then. I think there are some parts of the bill that were egregious and could be recognized as egregious at the time. But when you actually scan over the omnibus bill, which had a ton of different facets to it, like 80 to 90% of it was good. We're just criticizing the over incarceration and continuation of the war on drugs that was started under Republican administrations like Nixon and continued under Reagan. And we also have to recognize why there was so much crime at the time. The Reagan administration had basically done a major mental health injustice when they shut down tons and tons of asylums and let the people out into the streets roam naturally. Those people who had mental health disorders became the new criminals. And so you have this system where they have a severe crime spike. And you know what? Jim Clyburn, in an interview himself, said, you know what? I came back to my community and they were lambasting me for opposing this bill because they wanted their community safe too. And he specifically pointed out in this interview, he's not talking about just South Carolinians. He's talking about Black South Carolinians. They wanted some actual law and order at that point in time. So I think that was a very different era, and we're looking at it with some historical revisionism of seeing some consequentialism of creating this incarceration state. I think we need to just tackle the heart of the problem, which is end the war on drugs.
Yeah, I like that approach of like laser focusing on what's creating these problems and how we can solve them instead of who's to blame and getting mad. It's like we really need a coalition of problem solvers, and we need to be very strategic about it, not willy-nilly. We need to think things through, like how are we saying things, who are we saying them to, what effects did they have, not just like go out there and be all like, which is what we see like everywhere almost.
So we need to pay attention to what are drugs. They are coping mechanisms. What are we coping from, right? Like, okay, so then you ask why. Figure out, like,
John,
that you figure out, ways to solve that, but you keep digging until you find the source, right? Because coping mechanisms means you're sad over something, okay? And that's what we're focusing on. Yet we keep punishing people for coping. Like, what a like, you have mental health issues. How dare you? I am going to punish you more and cause you more trauma because you decided to find your own coping mechanism. You can't afford the services that have been provided because they're like ridiculously expensive. So
yeah, that's a great point. We can't let Biden off the hook just because we want Biden to win. We can't paint a rosy picture just because, the idea is that, well, he's got to stop Trump, so we can't remember him as bad as he really is. That's just a way to get the lesser of two evils every single cycle, because there's always going to be painted as existential. But let me just point out that I don't think we can really, I want to challenge the idea we can attribute any drop in crime to the crime bill, because at about the same time, we have adults who were coming of age who were not lead poisoned. So there was a drop in crime because before that, adults had all been lead poisoned because gas had been removed. Lead had been removed from gasoline, 15 odd years ago. So we, on delay, we saw a reduction in lead poisoning, which is really why there was a reduction in crime. And we have all these policies that are trying to take credit for things they didn't do. It's really just lead poisoning.
Okay, so what I wanted to push back on is not to exonerate Biden for things that he'd done in the past, but just think about him as someone who has done a lot of things. If he's been in Congress for a lot of years now, he has already, been in politics for a long time, been dragged through the mud multiple times, done the wrong thing.
Your mic keeps dropping out.
Yeah.
Okay, but the important thing I think is to think of him as a full human with good and bad. He's also co-sponsored the Violence Against Women Act, which did a lot of very good things for women.
It didn't cost him anything.
There are different things that you have to look at, and not just,
like I like you, buddy, but sometimes it's like a little pessimistic. I don't think that I think that Biden can be molded if we all like sat in a room
Nope.
with him together. And but that attitude right there, that what you have,
Buddy,
that you
tell me
just
the
automatic-
mechanism by which we can exert any control. There is not one.
Agree with.
Look.
I agree with both of you.
Oh, I
I
have
agree.
a suggestion for that.
Please.
I agree that Ariel is right, and I agree that Shale is right. No, Biden can't be molded, but Biden has stated that anything that will cross his desk that was passed through Congress by Democrat majority will be signed by him, even if he disagrees with it. And that is what we need to do, is get more people in Congress and in the Senate, so that way we, as people who are pro-UBI, can bring those bills to get signed.
I'm gonna clip this. I'm gonna clip this and show it to you in 2024. I'm gonna clip this and show it to you.
I want to give Mega Steve a second.
lawmakers. Yeah.
He has not said a single thing this time, and he has tried to insert one thing. Let's let him have at least one line since he bothered to join us today. Mega Steve?
Okay, so what I was thinking is we might not be able to necessarily mold Biden, but what we can do is accept him for now, since we have to get the lunatic out of the White House. But then, every 2 years are primaries. We got to get pro-UBI candidates in at every opportunity, into Congress, into the Senate, in all branches of government, until this idea is normalized.
Also, I have
agree
a
with that.
I have a second idea, which is none of us be in the room with him, and we just send Obama to talk to him, because UBI is already Obama. That's his best friend, so.
Obama had a supermajority and never did shit.
I don't know about that. I think I think Obama's just pretending to be for UBI, but I don't know.
Unless Andrew Yang convinces them again. And
Maybe. Well, Andrew Yang was in the room with Obama for his entrepreneurship award, so maybe we can get Andrew Yang to talk to Obama and then Obama to talk to Biden. I don't know.
Or maybe since Andrew Yang's on the business council, Yang will just be Yang himself, go in there and make a case and do what he's done for all of us and so many people who disagreed with UBI beforehand. And Biden will come out eventually, as convinced as we are, as rabbit-holed as we are, for UBI. That's my dream, at least.
Right. My dream was for Yang to debate Trump. That was my dream. That would have been beautiful.
Have a comment from the Twitch chat. What is your time frame for UBI? When do you think you can make it happen? This is from Public Citizen LTD.
We're looking at 2099 right now. No, that's a joke.
Oh, bad answer.
That's a joke, Shale. God damn.
I would say mid 2030s.
Canceled.
I would say mid 2030s.
I would say 2022 if we can get our stuff together.
Yeah, I'll have gray hair by the time UBI gets passed.
Are we talking truly UBI, or are we counting like basic income or even stimulus, monthly recurring payments? Are we talking like a permanent UBI? Because if so, I'm saying
I guess means tested or just another
2030s. Recurring stimulus might be next year.
Yeah, that's
I'm
exactly.
going to be overly
I think that's ridiculous.
person here and say that I have a video clip that I watch every day that makes me feel better about the world, of Andrew Yang saying that he thinks that Biden will pass UBI in his first term.
Yeah,
and I know that's unrealistic. I know it's not true, but it makes me feel good, and I'm going to keep on focusing on that because it helps motivate me.
If we get Yang 2024,
make it motivate you to the minute that he gets elected. Start sending letters to him the day that he is confirmed as the nominee. Just from whatever day in November we get the results, just start mass mailing him about UBI and recurring stimulus. And
he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care about anything but his donors.
No, I don't.
If we can get Nancy and Mitch and any other lawmakers like them, out of office, and put the right people in there, maybe
that's a better idea. I mean, yeah. Even
if we get David Kim in there,
David. I think David has a good
Carlos
chance.
Cardona.
But even if Shahid Buttar gets in and David Kim gets in, hopefully David Kim can push Shahid Buttar for the
Yeah.
UBI or something like that. We have to do it like that. We have to think really strategically. We can't have these all or nothing mentalities. They never
Right.
work, and they're always counterproductive.
Right.
Perhaps my East Texan friends who are revolutionary jail that need a revolution. And what
You need
happens
to turn
when
up
something
your
walks out?
Yeah,
or
Faye,
turn
your noise gate is
volume
your
down
noise gate
so
is
that
eating you.
can-
Did you
Yeah,
say
the
your
noise
friends
might
are
keep you.
revolutionary thinking?
Please repeat yourself a little bit closer to the mic. Your noise gate is overly
Yeah.
aggressive.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just saying that I'm out here. I would probably agree that nothing can ever until we just get rid of everything, and so it just has to all disappear. And the militias
Still
are going
cutting
to
out,
come and
Faye.
save us.
Yeah.
I like
But
those
I think we
people,
get the
but then they
gist.
have this solution. They're like, and then we have guns, and we're gonna go right out with the guns, and I don't know, do something with the guns until the
can't
things
touch
happen. I'm
my
like, I don't know. I'm like, they kind of lose me there. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna work, and I don't have guns myself. I don't know.
It's gonna work. There's no
But,
way it's gonna work. The government can
I
fire at you.
certainly understand the frustration. I'm sorry, Mia, you were saying.
Oh, the government can fire at you from space. There's no way that's going to work. They have microwaves that they can fire at you from miles to make you nauseous and fall over. You're going to drop your guns the moment there's any actual, it's ridiculous. The idea that you're going to take your
Like a
guns
drone
and
bomb.
overthrow the government in the case of an emergency is ridiculous.
Yeah, the government.
Government has tanks and nukes.
It's all about like the image they want to project. They just want to look like Rambo, but they don't know anything. They don't have any like training or anything like that. It's pretty
We can be
sad.
more sympathetic. It's not just about an image. They're frustrated like we are. They believe they can make a change. I mean, maybe they're wrong, but I think in a way their heart's in the right place. I can't ever really agree with violent methods.
Okay.
I don't support violence, but
let me
there is a kernel of goodness there, Ariel, and that's what we have to see to work with these people as allies so we can get UBI done.
Well, they
Maybe.
take
Hey, you're gonna say that there's a kernel of goodness in the militia people, but say that Biden's not gonna help us get UBI. Shale?
Well,
Are you listening
look,
to yourself
Don,
right now?
listen, I have to say the things that aren't being said, otherwise there's no conversation, right?
well,
I know.
At least it's opening something up. I don't know.
The militia believes themselves to be the hero in their narrative, right? Everybody does. They think that they're the line that stands between us and tyrannical government. That they are the people who, when the government comes to chip you, you're going to be thanking them for having stockpiled millions of bullets and, acting crazy and blowing shit up in their backyards. I don't know.
Take our guns. When they come to take our guns, we're gonna shoot them, and you're gonna be glad that we shot them because they ain't gonna take your guns.
But we're
Thank
Americans.
you. That was a very good reinforcement.
At its most unnuanced, yes.
Nuance, bro. Well, the other
Nuance.
thing.
Well, I've actually had to tell my friends who are, very excellent people. I've told them, please do not show up anywhere to protect me with guns. You want to show up with your bags of herbs? Yes. But everything else, no.
The interesting thing about it is that when it comes to like the so-called militia or the government, like they're pretty quick when it involves force or fighting back, or like if you try to like overthrow the government or whatever, like they're ready to shoot, aim, and fire. Or like if like you're suing someone, they file a lawsuit against them, they're going to hire the best lawyers. They're going to call you out on every single thing you have, like anything that they can use against you. Like, but when it involves like actually helping the people, doing something productive, they're now all of a sudden they're full of excuses, and also they're quick, and like if they're helping out the big companies, big airlines and stuff, but with bailing out the people and helping the people, doing something that will be very beneficial, they're like, oh, we can't do this because of A, B, and C, or we're broke, and and they just throw a whole bunch of BS at you. And of course the ones listening, like, they take their word for it because of the title they hold. or because they have a gun.
It's like when it comes to helping you, they suck. But when it comes to like blowing stuff up and hurting people and punishing people, they're really good at it. That's terrible. That's stupid.
Don't you know somebody who wishes he was a one-man militia, something, brother?
So, so the thing is, since Biden has this long, record of public service, right? You can blame. Yeah, politicians are terrible.
So watch the green square because
Okay.
that's when you cut out.
But whereas if you take a look at Trump, it's like, what has he spent his life doing other than amassing things for himself and doing things, to put his name up high? There's nothing he has done that you can. And so then you can say, oh, well, there's nothing to blame on him. And that's kind of weird. We should think about it as the fact that he's just some sort of a megalomaniac over there, doing his own thing with no regard to
for his narcissist.
I didn't get exactly what you're saying, but if you're
Possibly.
saying that we should acknowledge that Trump is a narcissist, a megalomaniac, and just a political con artist, certainly. I mean, that goes without saying. Don't think I don't believe that. It's just that there's no reason for me to say it because it goes without saying.
But whereas Biden, you can blame him for having been in public service for this many years, but you also have to acknowledge that he
what?
chose
What do I
his
have to
life
acknowledge?
go
It
into
cuts out
politics.
every time you get to your point. It cuts out. The more important, the more substantive the point in the conversation is, the more likely it is to cut out. You are suffering from a blood curse. I need you to get purified.
I don't know what we can do.
Hey,
You must find an
what you need to
oracle.
do
All right.
is pretend that you're deaf like me and yell.
So, are you saying that I
we
must
have
acknowledge
progress
some
on
good
this,
thing
I
that
think.
Biden has done? What is the good thing?
So
Listen,
one of the good things that he did co-sponsor was the Violence Against Women Act.
Okay.
And that, yeah.
Let me point out that didn't cost any money. And that he did that because it was strategically a way to appease his impoverished and oppressed voting base without spending any money. It did accomplish some good, but it's just heartlessly, strategically, the least amount of political or financial resources spent on the good he accomplished. So I want to point that out if that's your example.
Well, I don't know of all of the examples of things that he may or may not have done. I'm not well studied on Biden. I just feel that it's very easy to find things that he in the public sphere because
But
he's
he's
been in
not
public sphere.
given resources, real physical resources, either money or healthcare, which are kind of the things we're looking at here, to the poor ever. He's always moved away from that. He's always limited welfare. He's even tried to cut Social Security. He's not going to give us what we need. I think he's just about as likely as Trump to take stuff we need away.
See, I agree with you. Not likely to give us. I don't agree with you that it's as likely as Trump because
Okay.
I don't think the GOP would go along with it more than anything. And I think that what you need to have the Democrats and the ones that we get in there bring a bill up to Biden because it is really hard for a sitting president to deny signing a bill from his own party. And I know you shake your head no at that sometimes when I say it, but it's true. It just does not happen. People don't like to see that happen. It feels like you're betraying your party and it's bad image. And Biden is all about brand too.
So are we looking
Well,
at having
when
enough
he
of a
was in
coalition
Congress-
to are we looking at likely having enough of a UBI coalition during Biden's term to put the kind of pressure on Biden to make him sign a bill to actually get a bill passed? Are they going to have that kind of clout?
But it's polling at 70% nationally amongst, both Dems and Republicans. I think we might. But what I was trying to say was Biden only was going for the pro-Republican shit because he was trying to build himself up for a presidential run as a person who, gets that cross-party cooperation when what he really means to say, and what we all know is really happening, is not cooperation. It's actually that it's 110% just giving enough to the Republicans so that you can get them on the bill. And usually that is, being against people who are of color, being against people who are poor, being against welfare and social programs, cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare. Those are the ways that you get Republicans on your platform and onto your bill to sign it. And that is what he was building his political career on, getting that bipartisan support, even though it's actually damning himself and damning his own platform. He's been doing that. So if we have an actual bunch of more progressive Democrats, which we have a lot going in on both Senate and congressional races this year, if they get the wins, we will hopefully be able to bring progressive change. And if not 2021, the 2022 races are coming. And that's every member of the House is back up again every 2 years. And the other half of, another third of Congress is going to be going up in 2 years, or the Senate is going to be going up in 2 years, because that's every 6 years they rotate. And if we can get term limits as well, that means that we will sooner get all these old fucks out and be able to finally get some progress instead of people who've been in office since I was born in 1986.
I was born in
Here's why I
88.
think. Here's why I think. I feel like just based from the outside looking in, I feel like Biden will win this. Just all because like the way Trump butchered like the handling of the pandemic, COVID and stuff. I mean, I feel like that's going to be like his saving grace. That's the only reason why he has such a lead in the polls. But of course, like they're probably going to try to screw up anyway. But like that will be the only reason why Biden would win this. Like if Trump stuck with the stimulus talks and didn't first stop the discussion and then try to like bounce back or whatever. I'm sure like he would, even if he doesn't win, he'd probably be a very
if Trump didn't stop the extra 600 for that FEMA BS that he just like signed and like, or did a straight like a monthly cash payment, I mean, we'd be looking at a totally different calculus here.
He's desperate now.
I had it in my heart of hearts that Trump would be such a narcissist that if we ever came to this point, he would just say, give them the money because they're gonna like me. I'll always be remembered for giving them this money. He would be such a narcissist that he just
I'll
do
get
that.
to put my name on the checks. Yeah.
Right. But it's like, hey, asshole, at least be a narcissist and just throw your money so people will just like you. I mean, you could have at least done that, but not only is a narcissist, he's a complete idiot too. So whatever.
So I want to remind everybody that that the president seems to be just so it just absorbs everybody's minds, but politics is about in the world. Like this particular Kathy Chang is running for a judge position. A judge position is going to impact a lot of lives. I mean, she told us that her, for example, she's going to be presiding over mainly like children's court cases and family court cases where she's resolving issues within families that are dissolving. And so these are just as important as this this presidential race, because that the entire system is marching forward and crunching all of us underneath its feet. So we need to know that good people are at every single level of government and not just at the top. So what were you going to say something?
Here's my little political stump speech for voting, and it ties entirely with what you're saying. Look up who you have to vote for. You can look up easily where you are at, who is going to be on your ballot. If you're voting in person or if you're voting absentee or mail-in or whatever. Look up your candidates, every last one of them. Look up their policies. It takes 5, maybe 10 minutes. Look up all of the Supreme Court justices that are either being, renewed or being elected to your state or circuit court.
Oh, dude,
look up. Look up every person going into your state Senate, your state congressional representatives, because in 2 to 4 years, those are usually the most likely people to go on to the national level of Congress and Senate, etc. Look at your governor's races, etc., etc. There are resources. Look up every single candidate. It takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes before you fill it out at home or before you go to the polling place. Write it down on a piece of paper if you have to, who you're going to wind up voting for. And that way you can find everybody who is for the policies that you need, that is for reform, that is for UBI. Every last politician from the top to the bottom, every last one of them has to be vetted for these policies in order to make a change. It's not just the presidential.
Man, here's the thing. Like my ballot, like and I just filled mine out, and I gotta say, like and I'm in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, and my ballot is terrible. I mean, there's not that many choices, and when you get to like the circuit part, the courthouse, and all those things, they actually have like literally one choice, and it's a Democrat, one choice for all of them, and I'm like, and they're like, hey, if you they literally, to add insult to injury, they put down, oh, you can only fill it out once, and please pick your choice or whatever. Like, there's only one person I have. You want me to choose? Like, there's no other options.
Democrat candidates.
To Izzy's point, that being said, it is also very important that people who have the resources and the means to do so do try to run for local offices with these ideas. It is very important. You can be the person who goes in there and changes the culture of your local area. And if you change the culture of your local area, those ideas tend to spread. Families aren't just in one state. They're across state lines. So you never know who you are influencing and changing by acting locally in a certain way. And run for office if you can. If you got the resources, if you got the time, and if you don't think that like it's going to get you to be a target or something, because I know some of these races are crazy, but
please do. We need more choices, please.
Hey, Moto.
So how about you, Steve? What do you do when you try to make a change in the political structure of our country? What do you go to? Do you attend any of these Democratic meetings or Republican meetings, or what do you do?
Well, I make sure I vote in every election, including the midterms, and I try to follow politics as closely as I can.
So are you familiar with what, for example, I've been voting my entire life since I've been able to, okay? I'm pretty consistently a voter. But when I go to vote, to this day, I barely know what a judge does or what qualifications a particular person might have for judge. All I see when I go to the ballot, right, is there's a name, right? And then it's kind of identity politics because I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, maybe I should elect more women, or maybe I should elect more, because this is all I know about this person. Based on the name, it kind of looks like maybe she's a woman, or maybe she's of a certain, background. And there's very little information presented to people. So, for example, do you have, do you actually know about those things? Do you look up each of the candidates for judge, or, the other politicians besides the, president and the governor?
I usually try to, but I also find that usually at the lower offices, there's not a lot of information about them. Most of them don't even seem to be a member of one party or the other, or really some of them don't even have a website.
So you can't even just auto vote, like I'm going to vote all Democrat, for example. So it's really interesting, like how little information we have for a democracy. So I would urge people to, take some time to learn about those down ballot candidates, and just learn about what they actually do and what is actually important. So, for example, I mean, in terms of a judge, what's actually important, right? This is something I wish I had been able to stick around and hear about when Kathy Chang presented today, but we kind of wanted to run off and join you guys here. But some of the things that I would be interested in would be, you know, how does she perceive people who are impoverished? You know, I mean, when she sees somebody in front of her, does she see somebody who has gotten into trouble because of, you know, their financial situation, or does she see someone who is personally responsible for everything that has ever happened to them? And so, like, this is the kind of thing that we don't even get a chance to really influence because we don't get that information about our candidates, you know?
Well, I can't vote straight ticket either because a lot of people on my side of the state that I have moved to in Montana are more on the conservative side because it is incredibly rural, incredibly, you know, farmer heavy. Whether they actually are as conservative as, say, others or not, whether or not they have progressive policies or not, I mean, it really depends on the candidate. I know in one state representative race, there's Republican, Libertarian, and Independent. There's no Democratic option. So, as I said before, look up your candidates, look up who you can, look as much into them as you can, you know, if it's a judge, et cetera, et cetera.
I feel like we should have teams of people that for each area to be able to like plug in their own video and it's on one platform for that area, you know, have them expand up and have, you know, the trickle up that we can see, you know, and the even the hierarchy. I think some people don't understand the hierarchy of their own, you know, politics or whatever word you want.
Most people
And-
don't understand how our government works. And so for having all of these uninformed people be the voters out there choosing, you know, the judges and all these people that we don't have barely any information about, doesn't really make sense. But
Right,
it's-
yeah. That's the thing that bothers me. It's like I got my vote by mail thingy, whatever you want to call it, and then like half of the people on there, like I studied on the measures, but then I'm like, who the hell are these people? I've never heard of them. I mean, like I know nothing about them. So it's like all they say about the people is that like what's the word I'm looking for? Like, oh, they were an attorney, they were a teacher, they're an advocate, they're this, they're that. Yeah, but what the hell is their platform? You dumbasses don't put their platform on anything when like we're voting on any of this. How am I supposed to know what they want or what they stand
So
for?
we can change this kind of thing though, as people who are learning tech and learning this networking and stuff. Like we can create those teams to make this stuff happen, right? And I think there are a lot of people already working on these kind of things. We just need to take somebody's idea and extrapolate it to, you know, nationwide, because if this is not something that is like obvious, we need to make it bigger, and I don't think we need to do the work. I think other people, I mean, we will need to do the work, but there are people already starting.
And what
Is there
confuses
no-
me, like there were like 5 different people running for like a community college or something like that. It's like, what does that mean? Like what are how's that gonna affect my life? I don't
Do they
get
sit on
it.
the board, like a board of regents or something?
Right. So like what is that? Like
That's
what is it?
going to help them to, you know, get funding to plan their curriculum with the State Board of Education. So, I mean, it might not affect you directly right now, but if that person's on that board for, say, 10, 15 years, it might start affecting you in, you know, 8 years when some of these people start graduating from the community college and then maybe a 4-year college and start coming into your area and needing to either work for you or are starting to vote for people. It's a lot of different
Wow.
things
It's
because
such a slow process.
it really is for the local stuff because the more local stuff, really everything's already been planned for the next 2 to 3 years for projects. So everything's further out. I know this as I ran for mayor in my hometown in 2012. Steve kind of helped me campaign a little bit, And I mean, I was trying to, at least give a voice to people my age who aren't over 60, who've been either moving away to go to college and not coming back, or moving away to college and coming back and having nothing there for them. And, trying to let people know, like, we have to start thinking now about ways to keeping people in this town, or in like 5-10 years, there's not going to be anything. And guess what? Right now, the only businesses after COVID is Walmart. That's it.
Yeah, it's so disgusting, like how people aren't thinking about the like how the older generations aren't thinking about, like, what are we leaving for the younger ones, and it's yeah, it's bad.
Well, I'd like to believe that if we ever had Andrew Yang cabinet position, right, then we could actually move into the modern, where we didn't have internet.
Faye, I'm sorry, you have to get in front of your mic. You have to get where the other Faye is to talk.
I don't think it's that. I just think maybe
Okay.
it might be
You have to
So
get
I
right up
moved the
in here.
mic. Is that better? I moved the mic, so let's see if it's better. The thing is, if we have Andrew Yang, right, that is all about technology. Really?
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
better. I'm
what
going
can I
back
do?
to the blood curse theory. That's the working
The
theory
blood
again.
curse
Yeah.
Turn
Okay.
off, go into your settings, and if you have voice activation on, turn it down. So that way it picks up when more noise is there. I think what's happening is because of Zephyr and other noise in your environment, you had that turned up so that way the microphone wouldn't catch it. And that's why, because you're speaking at a tone where you're just barely over that threshold, and then you dip under every so often.
I'm also going to note real quick that we're at 10 minutes till 2 hours here.
Yeah. And also, Disdonn, I just wanted to add, like, yeah, I think people aren't coming to the towns and leaving because the towns have nothing to offer. What's really being offered to people are like, in terms of like help or employment, or in terms of like careers. If and do the people who run actually think like, hey, I'm offering this program that people can really feel a part of? Because when you just live somewhere but you feel like you're not really a part of anything, and things are just like boring and lethargic, why would you stay? I don't know.
Steve can back me up on this. When I was running in my hometown, the big thing, which is still being dealt with, but the city council had denied many offers, including one that was co-sponsored by the former pro wrestler Rowdy Piper for tens of millions of dollars to buy our historic Kirkbride Mental Health Regional Treatment Center, state hospital, psych ward, whatever you want to call it, that had been shut down in the decades prior, and turn it into something new. Either, some form of rehabilitation center, a college, a mall, mini mall, businesses, anything. And in the 10 years since I had run, well, 8 years, I guess, 2012, they have done nothing. What happened was they had run out of the time to give the state funding to help people remodel it. And then what they're doing now is slowly tearing apart every building they can without losing the historical places certification. So they're starting to tear down every building that isn't like actually part of it. Every gazebo is being torn down. Every utility and machine shop. They sold all of the former nurses' cabins to a group of, well, a family that owns a lot of nursing homes, group homes, and apartment buildings, and they're turning it into apartments. for affluent people who don't actually live in the town anymore. So like they're doing everything against what had been proposed that might actually bring businesses into the town.
Evan,
There was
how do they?
large horror films wanted to shoot there. Like the Conjuring series wanted to get in there and spend $10 million to use our rundown insane asylum as a backdrop, and they were denied.
Wow, I don't understand how these people get away with just like screwing all the townspeople over and like not, keeping their promises. Like I thought, you think they'd be like run out of town or some kind of penalties, or they'd get sued or something. But I guess
People either don't look into it, they don't care, or the people who got shafted move away. And that's what's been happening.
I think it's time that like the average citizen like stands up to these jerks, like just calls them out, but puts their names on blast. Like it's sickening. People not like keeping their promises. But what Shale just said, bait and switch. This is all bait and switch.
Oh, half of the town showed up to do that.
Yeah, half the town showed up, standing room only in the city council to, talk about how much it sucked that they were doing this, and yet they still reelected the people who fucked up. Or the people who they elected lied and turned around and started going for, the bad stuff. And
they
it
joined
really,
the dark side.
yeah, it's really accentuated in these smaller towns where the voting population and the population trends older age, because then the people who are upset about it, some of them die before the next election because they're over 50, and then the people who are under 30 either move away or just don't vote because they don't feel like their voice matters.
Damn, that's sad.
So I was.
Since we are
Can you hear me now? Are you able to hear me now? Is it better?
Well, for now.
For a minute? Okay. So
Well, no.
what I was saying before was that if we only had an Office of Technology again with the cabinet position that Andrew Yang said had been eliminated before, if we could get technology back as an important tool of our government, we can actually modernize government so that it can be more satisfactory to us. We're living our lives at such a fast pace, and we see that the politicians and the legal system is not keeping up. The judicial system is taking years to make a decision. I mean, you start a divorce, it's going to take you 2 years to finish that divorce. I mean, how is that, keeping pace with modern life where we expect people to get their faxes tomorrow, or immediately, right? Right now, send my information right now. You go stand at the computer and get it 5 minutes later, or instantaneously on your phone. So when we start to see government catch up to technology, I think a lot of these things can be alleviated, all of these problems that we're having.
We need to start moving away from a representative democracy more of an actual democracy. The representative part should stay for only the most necessary of national concerns, but local governments, we no longer should have city councils and mayors. We should just have a means to print out ballots and have people come together for these city-wide ordinances, hear both sides, and vote. Because or even do it virtually.
We'll still need representatives in terms of drafting and discussion. And then once they come up with different options, everybody can vote on it. We have the internet. And, yeah. Mia, you were saying our time is up?
Our time is running pretty low, and I did want to make sure that John got a chance, if he wants to plug anything he might want to for the next few, Is there something that you would like our audience to be aware of and tune into in the next coming few days?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you all for inviting me to be part of this conversation today. I think there was a lot of good stuff discussed. And I think I'll have to explore with Shale at another time some more stuff on Joe Biden's history.
I'd love to, yeah. Hit me up.
We could go into a much longer conversation, but I think it's very important that we try to get people involved. We start building infrastructure up to support these movements, not just for one election cycle and one candidate, but on an ongoing basis, and that we get involved in our communities. And so if people want to continue to be able to hear me and support the Hill of Roses community that we're building right now, they can go to thehillofroses.com. There you'll find literally all of our content, articles, videos, audio podcasts, soon to be comics. You can join the team if you so desire. And then you can find us on all of your social media platforms at the Hill of Roses. And if you just want to hear me specifically and not the whole organization, you can always find me at Jon Munitz on Twitter.
John, I know I may have been slightly brusque in moments, but I do very much appreciate your work. But it's just my way. I really think there's nothing more important. But John, to put a bullet on it, I think there's nothing more important than building parallel institutions of power, and you are doing that. So thank you for your good work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and you know what? Some conversations, we got so much in within 2 hours. We could have needed an extra 2 to go through that whole spiel because we have so many great voices here. So thank you all for having me on again.
Thank you again for
coming. Glad you weren't on when he had some of his friends on for the convince me to vote for Joe Biden podcast. That was a little heated.
I think I could have done a little bit of a better job. We'll see. I think we're coming out.
Well, maybe it's time for Convince Me to Vote for Joe Biden, the sequel. It might be time for part 2, John. So you can come on for that.
We'll have to keep you informed. We're coming out with a presentation towards the end of October on why we should support Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Right now we're focusing on our down ballot candidates and putting out articles of endorsements for each of these candidates. So we've done stuff like for Paula Jean Swearingen and David Kim and all these people of like, why are all these candidates so important? Our organization endorsed 16, and I believe we have 12 left that are still running. So we're trying to support them the best we can with the remaining of October.
Speaking of those candidates, me and Disdonn, we have something coming up to do with those candidates, don't we?
Yes.
That's right.
With our compatriot Jay Saber Gamer, we are planning to use almost all of next Sunday as a Twitch stream / information / entertainment / fundraising for various Humanity First candidates. I have reached out to a few, including David Kim. Haven't gotten any word back, but we will provide the proper infrastructure with a chatbot command to give them the links to all of the information so that they can donate directly to various Humanity First candidates. Later tonight, we're going to be doing a community stream with, what is it going to be? Payday, Among Us, and maybe Jackbox?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we're just going to do Jackbox tonight, but I guess we could do a little of those too, yeah. My plan was Jackbox, but yeah, we could maybe play a little Payday or Among Us after that. That sounds good. I will never turn down Payday. If you say it, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play. Anyway. Secure the bag.
My name is Faye Ku, and I'm going to be signing off at Palestine Math, which is my Twitter handle. And I also wanted everybody to remember that they're going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons for Donna Imam, and that's going to be.
That's a cool idea.
She's running for Congress in District 31 of Central Texas, out there in Austin, and they will be playing with Donna, Vyasar Ganesan, who is from Indian Matchmaking, and streaming personalities Erica Ishii, I might be saying that wrong, and Zara Fazal, and a special guest appearance by Andrew Yang. So that's going to be happening pretty soon. I think that's on Monday. So.
Maybe I can find out what his preferred character class is. That is a question that has been burning in my brain since I found out he plays Dungeons and Dragons.
Yang? What is
Andrew Yang's character class?
He said he likes to play tragic elves and self-sacrificing fighters and wizards.
My guess is a wizard.
He's going to be a rogue.
Last cannon.
I'll give my plugs.
I remember
now.
he said elves and fighters. Yeah.
Faye Doney here. My Twitter handle is @Tisdoney, TISDONEY. I'm working on a documentary series. Right now I'm looking for people who have started projects within their own communities that have maybe stepped forward, progress, and, reach out to me again at Tisdoney, and then we can get moving forward. Thank you.
Should I
wanna
go?
next? Yeah, go next, Izzy.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, my name is Izzy Bowden. And you can find me at on Twitter at Izzy Bowden, IZZYBOLDEN. Also on Instagram, same handle. And I also I'm also on YouTube under with my channel being Izzyland YT. I'm having a new video. I'm actually going to make a new video after this. And then also I have a podcast called Izzyland Uncut. And if if you would like to come on and whatever, just DM me on Twitter, send me a message and stuff, and we'll set something up. Also, and you heard this from me first, but I believe it's been confirmed that this coming Tuesday, I'll actually um, be interviewed by Paget Kagi on her Twitch channel. So yeah, be on lookout for that. So hey, go ahead. What are you about to say? Ariel?
I said, Izzy, if my thing that I did with her on Twitch isn't up on YouTube, bring that up in the conversation. because
I got your back. But
Cool,
yeah,
cool.
I'm also wait. Let's see. I forgot. But yeah, yeah, like if you want to learn more about me, just you go follow me on Twitter, or definitely check out my YouTube channel and podcasts and stuff, and we'll talk about a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's it.
Disdonn, did you go already?
I mean, I did plug the thing that me and Shale are doing relating to Humanity First, but I'm Disdonn. You can find me at Disdonn Plays on Twitter, twitch.tv/Disdonn Plays, YouTube Disdonn Plays, speedrunner, charity organizer for Retro Rainbow. And I have Steve as my compatriot for that charity enterprise, which is still working out the kinks on getting the NPO going for helping LGBT homelessness. But yeah, that's pretty much everything.
So Steve
for
helped
now.
us get that set up. Oh, sorry. Well, thank you. Hold on a second. That's it.
Yes, Steve helped get that set up. It was me and Steve that started it.
Steve, do you have a social media or platform that you would like to plug right now? Let us know how we can reach you again.
I'm on Twitter at MegaSteven or at Steven_Haspel.
It's HASPEL, right?
Yep.
If I remember how to spell your name.
And I'm on Twitch. I'm MegaSteveX, but I barely stream. So
Okay, very good. And have we gotten
Oh wait, hold on. I forgot to add. Like I'm also on Twitch as well, and I'm under. You can find me at like Izzy Reborn 92, IZZYREBORN 92. So I put that out there. Yeah, and Izzy on
Yeah, you
Discord.
can find me at Ariel's on Twitter and Instagram, and then it's YouTube.com.
It used to be Ariel's Armada. That's why I wasn't able to tag you earlier, because I thought I was trying to find it.
Oh, okay. Now it's Ariel's because of my like drone stuff I do. So it's ARIELS AERIALS because I thought it had a nice little ring to it. And but this hasn't changed. YouTube.com/revolutionary thinking. And I did a mock debate with Liam O'Mara and Ken Calvert as a puppet. I was a moderator. I don't know when that's coming out, but my my talk that I had with CoffeeZilla, who's a scam buster about a UBI, is going to premiere in the next hour, 6 p.m. EST. So in case you were interested, you could just jump on there and watch the kind of call-in that I had in that show.
All right. And Mia, did you give your...
I have not. I am fine with being the last two. My name is Mia. Mia Dunford. I am a co-host for Humanity Hangs on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I would love to see anybody who wants to just come in and have a casual conversation, no pressure, show up and hang out with us Humanity Forward volunteers there and have some good conversations. I obviously do this podcast on Saturdays, and I'm going to be starting a new project soon that I'm not going to disclose much information about yet because I don't feel like it's my place, but I'm going to be joining that, so I'll have more for you soon. Faye knows what I'm talking about. So I will see you guys next week. And thank you for watching the show with us and spending time learning about UBI, about poverty, and the many issues that have been haunting our country, really, over the past few months and years.
Okay, Shale.
My name is Shale Riley. My Twitter is SHAELRILEY. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We're going to be back very soon with Jackbox Games, so about an hour, 9 o'clock. I'll be streaming that to Twitch, maybe YouTube. We'll see. And John, thank you again for coming on. I hope we do talk again soon. It was very good to meet you. It was very good to talk to you. And I am a fan of your work. I do watch Hill of Roses, so I will be in touch with you that way at the very least.
Well, thank you so much for doing that, and thank you again for having me on. It was a pleasure getting to talk to you all.
See you guys. See you soon.
Yep.